I grew up in a fairly religious family. As a result, I wasn't allowed to watch horror movies as a kid. When I was in high school, my friend Mike and my other friend Mike and Jesse just randomly showed up with all three Evil Dead films. Over the years, I grew up to be a bit of a horror enthusiast and advocate. I'm still the horror fan who watches films through his fingers. Once on a date, I screamed so loudly that it echoed through the theater. Jump scares are cheap. A few moments after my scream died down, I could hear someone from the front row say, "Did you hear the big guy scream?" I love horror films, but horror doesn't necessarily love me back. I'm not counting down the scariest films. These are, in my opinion, the best Halloween films. These are films that you put on during a Halloween party. These films are spooky and fun. First up is the 2004 Hellboy film. The first time I became aware of Hellboy was in a Hollywood video looking at the first Hellboy video game, which is odd because I kind of grew up in a comic book store. The fact that I would run across the video game first bothers me. Anyway, the 2004 Hellboy film is an all-time classic. I do recommend the director's cut. There's just a few more scenes with the villains, but it does fill in a plot hole that never really existed. Next up is The Ghostbusters, one of the greatest films ever made, with 3 sequels, a reboot, 2 animated series. The original Ghostbusters spawned an empire, with the right amount of comedy, horror, and just a dash of sex. The OG Busters is a perfect Halloween film. When something goes bump in the night, you know who you're gonna call. Next is Ernest Scared Stupid. It is a highly underused monster. Not many scary movies use trolls. It has one of the best fight scenes in the truck battle, and Ernest films just rock. I'm not joking when I say I watch this film every year. Best seen with a nice cold glass of Miak at your side. Next on the list is The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. This Don Knotts classic is inspired by an episode of The Andy Griffith Show. This is a tale of a scaredy cat having to spend the night in a haunted house. Attaboy, Luther. And finally, we find ourselves in the presence of one of greatness. Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. This marks the end of the Universal Monster movies. Abbott and Costello deal with the monsters Dracula, Wolfman, and the Invisible Man. I know I tend to throw the word masterpiece around, but this is the film upon which all other horror films are judged. Patreon.com/Destiny Comics.